Welcome everyone to the Local Green Deals Implementing Global Ambitions at the Local Level virtual session at the COP27 EU Pavilion. It's good to see you all here. We have over 150 registered, but actually many more watching the live stream. So we're reaching out, I think, across the world with this session. I'm Mark Hidson. I'm the Deputy Regional Director at ECLAI's Local Governments for Sustainability, a local government network supporting around 2,500 cities and partners to implement sustainable development, and local green deals is also one of our core activities. I will be facilitating the session, and the session will be for 1 hour. The session has been organised by the European Commission through the Intelligent Cities Challenge initiative and with the Committee of the Regions. A few points first of all. I understand that you can post questions or comments on the platform where this is being live streamed. So please do that. I'll try and pick them up as we go along, and I can pass them on to the panelists or just read them aloud to the audience. The session is recorded and the replay link will be available at the end of the session on the platform where it's being web streamed. I need to pass on the apologies of Mayor Jasner Gabric. Unfortunately, he was unable to attend today, but we have more than enough speakers with experience on the topic to fill the gap. So in the session, we're going to be hearing about taking stock of the development of local green deals and political priorities for the green transition from 2 keynote speakers first. And then also we're going to hear about implementing an integrated approach to the green transition at the regional and local level. So I'll move on to our first keynote speaker, Valentina Superti. She's the Director of Tourism and Proximity and Digitalization in the Directorate General for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs at the European Commission. Valentina, please take the virtual floor.
Thank you so much, Mark, and very, very nice to be with all of you today for what is, I believe, a very important conversation. The conversation being the role of cities in society. And I think it's fair to say, and this is a first important message from my side, from the European Commission, is that cities are at the heart of the transformation that is needed for a sustainable future. So without cities, we cannot make it. And what is that we mean for sustainable future? We mean a future that is both environmentally and socially sustainable, and a future which is which has a proper governance model. Now, the challenges are huge, as we know, and that is also why we cannot think of single communities making the transition alone. We need all the relevant communities to be on board at the different levels in order for this transformation to happen. And clearly cities are at the heart of it, not least because of their proximity to citizens. Because of course there is also a question of trust from citizens and of engagement level from citizens, so at the end of the day, each one of us. So clearly, we all know the geopolitical context is extremely complex, it's volatile, it's uncertain, it's ambiguous, and this is so since now many years. So because if we think of it, it's since 2008 that with the financial crisis, that the world is unstable, that is clearly accelerated in a way with the pandemic, and now with the war in Ukraine, with the Russian aggression in Ukraine. And unfortunately, perhaps we have to start to think that instability is the norm. Unfortunately. As you know, the European Union, the European Commission is committed to reach climate neutrality by 2050. This is a legal commitment that we are taking. We have adopted the European Green Deal. So what I'm saying here is that we are making, we want definitely to take a leading role in the necessary transformation of society. But at the same time, again, I'm stressing that we need the engagement of cities, of communities, and proximity economy actors. And our initiatives on the so-called intelligent cities challenge plays an important role in that context. So this initiative wants us all to be able to deliver on the Green Deal commitments by precisely engaging with those who are on the ground, the cities. It brings together a very active community of 136 cities from 21 countries across Europe, cities that are best placed to drive the transformation of the local economies and strengthen, by the way, their resilience, because the resilience theme has become increasingly important, as we all know. And one of the initiatives that the Intelligent Cities Challenge is actively supporting, is the development of the so-called local Green Deals. So these local Green Deals, what are they? Basically, they are the transformation, or the translation rather, of the European Green Deal into the cities, into the local communities. And these local Green Deals are and are aimed at bringing together relevant actors who are best placed to make the transformation happen. So this is cities, but this is also, of course, local businesses, industry and civil society, industry SMEs and civil society. And up to now, we have already 40 European cities which have developed or are currently busy shaping local Green Deals. And so thank you for that. This is already a fantastic achievement. Of course, more needs to be done. And we are supporting from the European Commission to the best of our abilities. We are supporting cities in many ways. For example, we are, and this is an example, we are developing a blueprint, so a sort of methodology with a list of principles and concrete steps that are meant to guide the cities on how to set up these local Green Deals. So please be aware that this is perhaps a useful tool. And for you to know, we are not alone in this endeavor, because we are working closely with the Committee of the Regions and the CLEI, precisely, who is represented here today. And we are also supporting to the extent that we can through financial help from our European funds, for example, the Single Market Program. So the outcomes of these local Green Deals are already positive, notably in terms of foster the engagement, fostering, involving increasingly the urban communities, and giving also this sense of urgency that the transformation is needed. For your information, yesterday and the day before, we had a very interesting session, I thought, with the mayors in Barcelona, which has also allowed us to, I hope, raise the level of engagement, also the more political level from the mayors themselves, because of course we need the communities, but we also need the political leadership. So I hope that, that session was the first of many to come. And let me conclude by saying that as next step, we just want to continue engagement. I want to say that we are open to dialogue. We are open, of course, to refocus priorities as needed, but we are also open to discuss together how best to go about this necessary transition, setting targets if needed, which is, I think will be needed, and also steer common action in the days, months, and years to come. So thank you so much for having listened to me, and I would stop my introduction here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Valentina, for setting the scene. And for those listening, if you type in Intelligent Cities Challenge into a search engine, you will get to the project. And also you'll be able to find the local Green Deal blueprint that Valentina referred to as well. So on to our next keynote speaker, Ricardo Rio, Mayor of the city of Braga, Portugal, and member of the European Committee of the Regions. Please, you want to help us set the scene and again take the virtual podium this time.
Thank you, Mark, and greetings to Valentina, to all the speakers and to all the participants in this very interesting session. I would like to start this intervention actually by thanking the invitation and also the opportunity to represent the European Committee of the Regions in this very important discussion in a topic to which the core is strongly committed. Within the committee, I am a member of the Green Deal Going Local Working Group, but also the rapporteur on the Sustainable Development Goals. And if it is now clear the crucial role of local and regional authorities in the pursuit of these global goals, I strongly believe that the Green Deal is only implemented successfully when done in the framework of the SDGs, what requires bridges between the SDGs localization and the local Green Deals. Climate change is the defining struggle of our generation, and it cannot be overcome without global cooperation and a global goal. But we are already living in a world that is deeply affected by climate change, and its effects vary greatly depending on geographic, economic, and social specificities of the impacted territory. For example, even in a scenario where global warming stays below 2 degrees, mountainous regions and the northern and southern edges of Europe will experience enlarged temperatures increase overall, especially in the summer, with average temperatures that will be significantly warmer than today. As for Southern Europe, will be particularly impacted in more frequently and dangerous heat waves, since it already has a warmer temperature. In a more dire scenario, there are no foreseen benefits for any region. And across different territories, it is always the most vulnerable people and communities that will be disproportionately affected. These effects are only further exaggerated when we take a look at the global perspective and the vast diversity of the regions and the people who have to deal with the effects of climate change around the world, also having a strong impact in climate migration. In a country like Portugal, we can already suffer from the flooding that happens in urban areas that are a direct result of extreme periods of rain, just like we saw the big fires that were a consequence of awkward weather conditions in the month of October 2017. This is why we have to pursue global goals, both on mitigation and adaptation through local action. Though cities are a big driver of planet warming emissions, they are also the engines of climate action and are at the forefront of delivering solutions. Local and regional authorities are key drivers in raising climate ambitions and are also key actors in delivering the place-based solutions that we need in order to fight climate change. They are testbeds of innovation and the trailblazers when it comes to identifying ways to reach climate neutrality. I am very proud to know that my city, Braga, as it was announced today, is for the third consecutive time among the narrow number of cities that ranked grade A in the demanding list released by the Carbon Disclosure Project. To score an A, among other actions, a city must disclose publicly through CDP CLAY. To track and have a citywide emissions inventory, it must have set a renewable energy target for the future and have published a climate action plan. It must also complete a climate risk and vulnerability assessment and have a climate adaptation plan to demonstrate how it will tackle climate hazards. And many A-list cities are also taking a variety of other leadership actions, including political commitment from a city's mayors to tackle climate change. On the level of the region or city itself, we need effective cooperation between the private sector, civil society, and academia to ensure the transition towards climate neutrality and resiliency is timely, permanent, and just. Local green deals are an extremely good instrument in facilitating this kind of cooperation. They are a great way of pooling resources and know how to create real and lasting impacts and to move together towards a common goal. They are a great way of enabling locally driven public-private partnerships that multiply the value of green investments for all the engaged sides. And it is no coincidence that a great deal of programs presented throughout COP27 rely on the idea of cooperation and engagement at local level. But for local green deals to take root and for subnational authorities to deliver on their potential in this regard, they have to be enabled and supported at all levels of governance. The principle of multi-level action is enshrined in the very foundation in the European Union, and the daily work of the European Committee of the Regions revolves around this fact, whether through our consultative work or through the many tools and support instruments that we develop. We always underline the fact that the right action should be taken at the right level. This is possible only through effective and transparent multi-level governance. In Braga, my city, once again, according to our latest sustainability report, which was issued in 2020, over 60% of the city's emissions are a direct result of mobility issues, the age of our public transportation fleet, and the massive use of their own vehicles by citizens. That was why it was so important to complement the huge investments that municipality is making in the renewal of the buses. Now 40% of them are already electric or supplied by compressed gas, with the engagement of dozens of companies and institutions, which signed our company Sustainable Mobility Pact, stimulating their workers and their stakeholders to more responsible mobility practices. Also in the same direction, in the framework of the efficient use of energy, we are providing some of the streets and the public buildings to support research initiatives like the Batteries 2030 project, promoted by the Iberian Nanotechnology Laboratory, also based in Braga, but that already involves several universities, big companies, and startups in the assessment of new opportunities to produce, store, and efficiently distribute energy. As it is important to engage schools, companies, social institutions, and individuals in projects that aim to reforest our territory or to take care of our water resources. We are here at COP27 to discuss the global aspects of climate action. Climate change does not respect borders, and the spirit of cooperation that is underlined within the local Green Deal concept should not be contained within the confines of our own countries or cities. Climate change is a global issue, and it is key that we learn from each other so as to avoid any costly missteps. The true value of the local Green Deal blueprint is that it can be adapted to the local specificities of cities around the globe. We cannot propose guidance at the cost of stifling diversity, and this is why the European Committee of the Regions fully supports and is proud to be part of the local Green Deal story. I am very glad to have taken part in this important event and very much look forward to what it lies ahead of us. I wish you a fruitful discussion and hope that we can come out of it with concrete and clear steps to make. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Mario. That provides an excellent teaser for us to dig a little deeper with our panelists into taking local green deals to the next level. And I also recommend to our listeners, do type in the European Committee of Regions local green deals into a search engine, where you'll find quite a few resources to help you find out more about local green deals and how to implement them. So thank you very much for that. So we're moving on to our sort of panel section now, taking local green deals to the next level, implementing an integrated approach to the green transition at the regional and local level. I'm delighted to welcome our excellent panelist, Dr. Diana Pretzel. She's Deputy Mayor for the Environment at the city of Mannheim in Germany. We've got Vincent Chauvet. He's the Mayor of the city of Autun, France, and he's a member of the Committee of the Regions. And we've got David Dessers. He's a Deputy Mayor of Mobility, Climate and Sustainability, Agriculture and Consumption at the city of Leuven, Belgium. So I'm going to go straight into the questions, I think, here. And first to you, Dr. Diana Pretzel. The main question I think that we have is, from your experience with local green deals, what is your advice to cities which are looking to develop a local green deal, and how to engage, I think, effectively the local businesses for implementation?
Yeah, hello to everybody. Thank you that I can take the chance to share what we did already in Mannheim. We are in the center of Germany, and a city of 330,000 inhabitants, and we are the hottest city in Germany. And that's why we really need a change also concerning the climate change. And that's why we went on our way. We declared the Mannheim message in 2020 together with a lot of other cities, and then started in 2021 with an office for the local Green Deal. And that's what I want to share to you. We still just started, but what we did a structure. I think that's what you maybe can learn from us. And we started with deals. I think that's also something you can learn maybe from us. So we first of all started with 3 people, only half of their working went into this office, but they started with deals. And what we really need for the Green Deal is partnerships. And also the city itself as a structure has to work into that. Both need structures, and what did we do already with our companies? Because Mannheim is a city where a lot of companies are, and we, for example, did a deal with our energy MVV to decarbonization of the heating network until 2030. So this is, I think, a really important deal. We also did a deal with John Deere. A lot of you may know John Deere for the agricultural mobility, and they do a sustainable mobility concept and are just on their way to that. Also, Roche is a big company, and they did a big wildflower program as interim use on there. And maybe what I really like as well is our football team did a wildflower stripe and insect hotel program, and therefore, of course, reach a lot of people. But how did we get these deals? I think this is really important to understand. We started with these 3 people, but what we did now, we really followed the Green Deal and used all the 8 topics you have in the European Union for the Green Deal and looked what does it mean locally. And for all of these 8 topics, like zero pollution, like biodiversity, like sustainable smart mobility, etc., you know them all. We get one worker for all of that, for every topic, and they work into our partnerships and into the city to help them to develop deals. And therefore, we want to be ideal for Mannheim, for the world. And they really want to help them to invent more deals. As I already told you, we invented already. And I think the way we have the path is to work with the partners and to bring our inhabitants and the big partners, the business partners into action. And that's how we understand our Green Deal, our local Green Deal, and how we are working on that. And what we need from you, from the European Union, of course, is a lot of fundings to help people to bring the deals into action. I think first that's the first answer from my side. And of course, I would like to answer questions from the chat and from our partners and friends from all over the world.
Great, thank you very much for that. I think that the sort of success factors that you gave there at the end, allocating it to the 8 topics, a champion to really help develop deals, which is action on the ground, is certainly a good way forward. And that's certainly clearly then a success factor for you. So good to hear that. I'm going to move on to our next panelist here, Chauvet. Main question to you, I understand that you're the rapporteur for the Committee of the Regions opinion on green budgeting. So what are the benefits of employing local green deals when it comes to the budgeting of citizen financing climate or environmental projects. And we hear about financing a lot, that we need finances. So what's your view on that? Now we may have technical problems there. Looking towards my colleagues. This is virtual, so there's bound to be one or two technical problems. There,
Hi, Mark. Can you? My connection is unstable. I'm in Sharm-el-Sheikh at the COP27. Can you hear me and see me well?
I can hear you and see you well for now. So okay. Yeah, please do go ahead. And it's great that you're at the COP. So
and there's interpretation, if I'm correct, in French. So I might speak French as well.
I'm not aware of any interpretation. Is it possible to do it in English?
Okay, no problem, no problem. Thank you, and thanks a lot for Clay. I was just seconds ago with Yunus Arikan in the ministerial meeting of the Surge initiative that I'm sure you have heard of. It is the first ever reunion of ministers of cities and town planning. And we want this to have enshrined in the COP negotiation and the process, so not to make a one shot, but to make it happen at every COP. And we were there, a number of ministers and also mayors and 4 members of the committee of the regions as well who are here. Unfortunately, our chief of delegation Rafał Trzaskowski had to leave to Warsaw because of the international context. So thank you for inviting me. Maybe to answer your question, I'll also reflect on the bigger picture of what's happening here at the COP right now. I've been working on an opinion of the Committee of the Regions that you can also Google, Green Budgeting Committee of the Regions, with the strong help from the OECD, and the European Commission is also working on this. It's a work in process. A lot of big cities are turning to green and social budgeting, but it's harder for smaller cities to have the engineering and the know-how to do so. But why is it important, and why are local green deals important? What we're trying to do at the COP is to make cities and regions a true partner and have them formally recognized in international negotiations. Why? Because we think of 2 important measures for climate negotiations and also climate action to be a success. First is direct funding. We're at the COP where the question is implementing, and implementing will be done by 2/3 at the regional and local level and international level. It's going to be mayors and local representatives who are going to invest to mitigate and to adapt and to fight climate change. So it's very important that this role is recognized, and that direct budgeting comes from EU to cities, but also in the future to global green facilities or global green funds to specific cities, especially also in the global south. And the second idea is that we don't want only to be implementing. We don't want only to be subcontractors of state policies. We also want to be in the design of policies, and we also want to be in the setting up of targets, of CO2 targets. And we had a briefing yesterday with Frans Timmermans, and we have to say that the Commission has to move forward on this, because it lags a little bit behind to our eyes on this issue of formal recognition of local and regional representatives, and also on the fact that NDCs, nationally determined contributions, should not only be set up at the national level. Of course, COP is between parties, and parties are states for the moment, but a good way and an efficient way to have strong and credible NDCs is to make them the addition of locally and regionally determined contributions. That's a constant position, a constant stance of the European Committee of the Regions, to have locally and regionally determined contributions. So once you add up this locally and regionally determined contribution, like Japan does, for instance, then you have the nationally determined contribution. And that's where I come to green deals. How do you effectively set up regionally and locally determined contributions, of course, by multi-level governance also at the local level. There's a delegation of the EESC as well here, the European Economic and Social Committee, and we've been also reflecting on this. I think there's a common mutual work to do on this. Basically, is to do local COPs at the local level. All stakeholders, with the businesses, the trade unions, and this is also the idea of having local Green Deals is to have multi-level governance, to include all stakeholders at the local level to efficiently implement, and sometimes, and this is what we say, be more ambitious than the national level, the European level, and the global level. Because now the ambition lies in cities that are moving forward, in also some rural areas that are moving forward, more than in the states who are lagging a little bit behind on CO2 reduction. So this is why this is really important. And also to finish on green budgeting and to come back to the beginning, green budgeting and having green budgets is also the precondition of direct financing. Because direct financing needs trust between the financer and the entity being financed, and also needs transparency and traceability. And having green budgets allows for a strong framework for direct financing from European Union or global funds to cities and regions. So this is why, from a democratic point of view, but also from a financial efficiency point of view, green budgeting and local green deals are of the uttermost importance.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, I picked up there that the design of policies and targets needs to be done together between cities, regions, and national governments and other actors, because of course they impact directly on the cities and regions themselves. Essentially, in most cases, they're the ones that have to implement at the local level, which is absolutely key. And the financing, as I say, is raised quite a lot. And therefore, I think having an influence on sort of where the financing is directed and how best to use the budgeting, not just at the national level, but also at the city and regional level, to achieve local green deals is essential. So maybe we'll come back to that in a bit. Then I'd like to move on to our next panelist, Deputy Mayor Dessers of Leuven. Question to you as the Deputy Mayor: how can cities ensure this multi-level and multi-stakeholder governance that actually we just heard about? How is this really going to then ensure that local green deals happen? And how challenging is it to monitor progress on the ground?
Yeah, hello everybody. Thanks for inviting me here. I'm really glad to join this panel. I will tell you a little bit more about the climate transition in our city and the specific approach, the multi-stakeholder approach we apply in Leuven. Leuven is a city in the heart of Belgium, close to Brussels, with a little bit more than 100,000 inhabitants. It's also a university city with 55,000 students. And we strongly believe, as already said, that cities can play a key role in the global fight against climate change. And we as a city, we are absolutely ready to do our fair part of the global job that has to be done to tackle climate change. We started already 10 years ago in Leuven with the ambitious and exciting idea to build a climate neutral future. And we started with a kind of analysis of the existing situation. And that's how we discovered that in our city, buildings, residential and non-residential buildings, are the main source of CO2 emissions, 60%. Also, mobility is a very important source of CO2 emissions. We also pointed out that we were only using a little fraction of the enormous potential of renewable energy. And it became also clear that, however, Leuven is already a quite green city, that it needs to be greener and more biodiverse. So what we had to do was quite clear. The question was how to achieve these goals. And then quite soon we came to the conclusion that a city, a local government, a municipality on its own is not in the capacity of doing that. It's not in the capacity of achieving these goals. And so if we want to achieve these goals, we needed the engagement of all the stakeholders in the city. The engagement of our university, which is a big stakeholder, the companies in our city, the public enterprises like the bus company, the energy company, etc., social organizations, civil society organizations. We need the engagement of every single citizen, in fact, in our city. And so how we could arrange this, that was the key question. Our answer to that challenge was the founding of a network organization, which is called Leuven 2030. And the aim of Leuven 2030 was to bring together in that organization all these local stakeholders in order to deepen their engagement and to accelerate the transition in a just and social way. And so we created that organization in 2013. And maybe it's important to stress that Leuven 2030 is an independent organization. It is not controlled by the city. The city plays an important role in it. I mean, the engagement of the city is also very important to succeed in the transition we aim, but it is important that it is not under the control of the city. So today, Leuven 2030 is still the vehicle we are working with. It has more than 600 members, members coming out of the citywide community, and they are divided in 6 member categories. I just point them out. It's first category are citizens. The second one are civil society organizations. The third one are companies and industry. The fourth category is the category of the knowledge institutions like the university, but also schools. The fifth one is the city, and the sixth categories is for the public enterprises, as I already said, like public transport enterprise, etc. And so we are working with this organization in order to stimulate each other and to engage the citywide community. And what is very important in the functioning of that organization is that in the General Assembly, but also in the board of directors, in the executive committee, there is an equal share of votes of all the different categories of members. And so it is a way of, you know, this is an approach of a formalized, structurally embedded collaboration. And that is the Leuven model, in fact, that we are adopting now for 10 years. And it's, key is the collaboration in it. But what we see is that it's leading to results, you know, it's leading to results, and it helps us for the important other players in our city to involve them in the transition. And so maybe to conclude, when we are talking about local green deals, we're talking about, let's say, a coherent plan to reach that climate or carbon neutral future. And in the case of Leuven, this has been written down in a roadmap. So this is the roadmap of Leuven 2030. And in the roadmap, you can find 13 deals or programs and 18 yards, we call it, working yards, that you know, that we are putting, that we are using at the moment to apply, in fact, to make the transition happen. And also this roadmap was made in multiple co-creation sessions with an input of all these different stakeholders, from university, from local companies, from citizens, etc. And so now we are very glad that we're also selected for the mission of the 100 climate neutral and smart cities. We're working on a city climate contract, and this roadmap will be the basis for that contract.
Great, thank you very much. We'll come on to probably the mission, 100 climate neutral, the smart cities in a minute. And these are inspiring examples that we're hearing. And actually, one of the first comments on the platform has been, how can the participant, how can the audience exchange and network. So actually, that was a general sort of comment, but I can already respond to that to say, well, of course, there's in the COP27, there's an exchange mechanism. There's a tab on the COP27 platform to exchange and start posting questions there. Pretty sure you'll get some connections through that. But in particular, as mentioned, if you search for the local green deals, the Intelligent Cities Challenge, the European Committee of the Regions has a website as well. You'll be able to contact to get support there. And of course, there's many cities working with these organizations, with IGLE as well, where we'll be able to share information and put you in contact. This is what these initiatives are about. And of course, the cities we've got here, I think will be more than willing to share information and exchange on what they're doing. Yeah, so please do try and get in touch through those websites. Actually, another quick question before I've got a couple of more follow-up questions, which came from the audience. And how can you successfully get involvement, say, from non-white middle class? I think the main audience that's probably involved, citizens in climate justice and environmental initiatives. Does anybody want just to say sort of a minute or two on that before I go into other questions? How do you involve sort of the diverse audience and citizens involved in the local green deals in just maybe a minute? Please, yeah, please go ahead. Diana, please.
I can answer this, yeah. We just developed our climate action plan, and there we had an involvement of more than 1,000 people into this process, which lasted for a year. And we involved, of course, most of the interests of the people. Of course, some were against one and the other, especially in the topic of mobility in our city. Some wanted more space for pedestrians and bikes and so on, and other more space for cars. But however, we try to solve that, and we had a lot of different things. We had children in a children congress for schools and children to involve them. We had a special group of 25 inhabitants which were chosen by chance, and they were really part of the process. But also we had a group of experts which helped to see the long distance aim. And of course, we had a platform where people could bring in deals and also comment what we wanted to do. And the result is a 160 pager for our way to climate neutrality in 2030.
Okay, well, that's a good example. So thank you very much. So I think our listeners will be able to see that through the local green deals, this is possible. And I'm sure the other cities have examples as well. But I've got a couple more questions. Actually, I'm going to stay with you, Deputy Mayor Pretzel, if that's okay, maybe just in a minute or two, because the mission was mentioned earlier. Mannheim is participating in both the Intelligent Cities Challenge as a mentor city, actually, also in the mission for 100 climate neutral and smart cities. How do you plan to use Mannheim's local green deal in order to shape the climate city contract? And if we could, 2 to 3 minutes if possible, and then I can get a couple more questions for the other panelists as well.
Yeah, and for us, it's a big issue that we are part of the 100 climate neutral cities, which are the models for the European Union. And as I just said, we are just ready with our climate city contract. And this will, of course, be the basic for the 100 climate neutral cities. But it involves a lot of things which are part of the other Green Deal sections. So we will, of course, use all that and bring this into deals, as I said. Yeah. And of course, for the European Union, we also need an action plan and an investment plan, which we are just about to develop out of this climate action plan by 2030. And we have some topics which are not part in that, especially biodiversity, and something like agriculture or forestry. And these, of course, we have to develop more intense and bring this also into action, because these are also really important parts. But therefore, we have our workers, of our local Green Deal workers that bring this into action. But the most important part of the 100 climate neutral city participation is that we get can use the fundings of the European Union, and that we really need importantly, because a city of 300,000 people will not be able to finance the huge things we have to deal with in the coming 8 to 9 years and even more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's you're saying then it's not a new strategy, it's not new targets. You're building on what you've already done, and it can be aligned with the 100 or the mission in that sense. So it's not duplicating that, because you can build on it, which is good to hear, I think. And it's important for cities, I think, that they don't feel the need to develop new strategies each time, new targets, that they can link the two initiatives. So that's very good to hear. So I've got another follow-up question for Mayor Chauvet. Can effective application of the multi-level governance approach, which we talked about earlier a little bit, increase the ownership of green agenda among citizens and businesses? Did you get that question there, Mayor Chauvet?
Sorry, no, I was disturbed by someone for the community.
I can repeat it, and it's excusable because you're actually at the COP, so actually doing this on the ground at this moment. So I'll try and repeat it. You're frozen, so I'm not sure whether you'll hear it, but if you can hear me, the question was, can effective application of multi-level governance approach increase the ownership of the green agenda among cities and businesses? If not, we can try and come back to you. I have another question for the panelists.
Very unstable. So,
are you there? Maybe I'll move on for now, and then we'll try and come back to you, Mayor Chauvet. So then I'll go on to Deputy Mayor Dessers. Another follow-up question here then. So Leuven, like we just heard from Mannheim, is also one of the cities that participates in both Intelligent Cities Challenge, the mission for 100 climate neutral and smart cities. And you mentioned that you have this 2030 local green deals in order to shape the climate city contracts. How do you plan to do that? How do you plan to combine the two?
Yeah, it's we're still busy with the climate city contract. I hear that Mannheim is already ready with it, if I understood well. So we have a little delay then, but we're working on it with all the partners. And for us, the idea, and we're very glad that we were selected for the 100 cities. But the idea is that we will take the step from what is possible to what is necessary to be done. We can only see today that many things already has been done in Leuven, but it's not going fast enough. So the biggest idea is we have to accelerate. We have to accelerate and make the changes more systemic, more structural. And so what we want to do now is to work closely together with the partners I already mentioned, and to use the climate city contract in order to deepen the engagement of these parties at the partners at the one hand, and on the other hand, make it very concrete. So we think that the time of too much reflection, pilot projects, etc., is maybe behind us. And now we have to take the step to very concrete projects. And the good thing is, in working on the climate city contract, we see, for example, that a partner like the university is really in, for example, developing new research parks. They are really making the choice to make them climate neutral. So that is really important to see these plans going on and to see that it is happening. For example, the biggest brewery in our city, quite well known, it's AB InBev. the headquarters of InBev is in Leuven. Well, they took the engagement to make the brewery climate neutral towards 2028. And these kind of engagement we need from all these partners. So yeah, I think this is an opportunity, especially with the energy crisis that is going on at the moment. It creates momentum to accelerate with the process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's good to hear. Thank you very much for that. So I think the Mayor Chauvet is back online. Yeah, so the question I was posing to you was quite an important point and question is, can effective application of multi-level governance approach increase the ownership of the green agenda among citizens and businesses?
Yes, if you can hear me, and I hope the video will go well as well. There's a strong risk. What we share, the consensus here is that there is a lot of mistrust regarding international organizations and also the European Union, but international organizations as a whole. So if measures are imposed by unpopular institutions or not so popular institutions, then there's a risk that there is a reluctancy to buy them. And it's also a very good point, a very good argument for giving more space and more power to the local level and mayors especially, because they are still, and not only in Europe, the most trusted politician and the most trusted authorities, the municipalities. And the risk, and the big risk is that I think for Europe, there's a big risk that if the change is seen as too technocratic, top-down, too Brussels-centered, we jeopardize the European construction, the European Union as a whole. And this is why, of course, there's the need of having the measures and the plans really elaborated closer to the ground. And also, I want to stress this, it's going to be more effective and it's going to be more ambitious. Now, ambition lies at the local level. When you see the negotiations, now we don't move forward fast enough. But when I hear my colleagues, whether David or also we had a great speech at the plenary and today at Surge of the mayor, the mayor Dijkstra, the mayor of Utrecht. When I hear these mayors and what they are doing and how fast they are going, the coalition, the C40 that is for big cities but also smaller communities, we see that ambition is really at the local level. So it's not only, as I said, from a democratic point of view, but also from an efficiency point of view, that to have local involvement and local empowerment also of the youth. We've seen the young envoy of the Egyptian presidency to the COP, and remember some of you may remember, and colleagues from the Committee of the Region, that we in my opinion, we suggested that every city should have a youth council that is obligatorily that consulted on climate affairs and environmental measures. So the local level is also the proper level to engage with especially the youth and also other discriminated or marginalized communities, and to have effective involvement of all the population. Thanks. Back to you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Okay, we've got 5 minutes. I just want to actually ask each of you in 30 seconds, 45 seconds, what one piece of advice would you then give to our listeners, the people attending this session, about what they can do to implement local green deals? I mean, I know it's difficult to give one piece of advice, but what, either to get started or if they're already developing something, what's a key piece of advice, or what action would you recommend? And maybe we can start with Mayor Rio, if he doesn't mind, because I know he's been patiently waiting throughout this after his keynote speech. I don't know whether you can hear us. Potentially not. But then I'll go to our other panelists then first, to maybe go back to Deputy Mayor Desses, what one piece of advice would you give? 30 seconds.
Two advices. One is do a social check with every measure you take. I mean, it is very important that we do this transition in a socially just way. If not, we will lose support for it. So do a social check in every measure you take. That's one thing. Second thing is, let's not talk all the time about climate, climate, climate. Let's just say that we want to build healthy cities, wealthy cities, cities where they are livable, cities that are safe, cities where a happy life is possible. So let's talk about a bright future, a good future, and that will be a climate neutral future. Thanks.
Okay, that's very positive there. So then, Deputy Mayor Pretzel, what one piece of advice?
Cities are the center of action, also for the Green Deal. And I think we have to be treated like that a lot more. There is innovation. You can really see that in Barcelona. I've been there 2 days ago. Use this innovation for the innovation of the world. Use us for the transition in direction of climate neutrality and sustainability, and also biodiversity. I agree here with Mr. Dessers, because these are the main topics the world has to solve, and bring us into this action in cases of structure and in cases of money. That's what we need, and that's my advice, and bring this in all the cities that are ready to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was at Barcelona as well, and I was quite impressed, and it's really moving now much past strategy and policy into action. There's innovation there, there's products and services there that really need to be implemented, and there's also the will, I think, from citizens. There's a general openness, I think. Yeah, I agree with that. Then to Vincent Chevaux, do you want to have sort of one piece of advice that you want to offer? You're still on mute.
Yeah, the advice is that really the good work that we do, it's a bit self-centered, but the good work that we do at the Committee of the Regions and the good proposals that every rapporteur passed, and also the good job, the very good job, impressive job that ICLE is doing, should be spread more. So do spread the news to your fellow mayors, also national governments, because what we propose is not just personal lobbying or public affairs for a sector. It's really the way forward, and by talking to NGOs, to citizens, even to some heads of states or government, it's really the missing piece now in the implementation and the negotiation is the place of local governments. So spread the news, if I want to give a bit of advice.
Yeah, I think that took it back to the first comment. How can we find out more? So thank you very much for that. I heard two things there, at least in the end messages. Involve cities more in the policy frameworks and the financing frameworks at the European level, but also it's about action on the ground. And I would say for local green deals, a number of points have been covered here. Engagement with the citizens, with different stakeholders at the local and regional level. Information to be fed into the policy and financing structures and frameworks that are developed that impact on cities. Cities need to be heard. And of course, this sort of much more integrated, non-silo approach. But of course, the main point is action on the ground. And that's what the deals is in local green deals. It's actually getting the action on the ground. And that's the hard work. Just leaves me to say thank you. I think I've got 30 seconds left. Thank you to all the speakers. We got through quite a lot in 1 hour. And really appreciate that. So again, thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you in the future and how the local green deals develop. Thank you.